Welcome. This module introduces disability studies as a cross-disciplinary field that explores the cultural, social, and political aspects of disability. At the end of this session, you will be able to understand the evolution of disability studies, examine the models of disability, learn about the role of disability rights movements, recognize the importance of inclusive practices in education and employment, examine the role of media and cultural representation, reflect on the future directions of disability studies. Disability studies is a cross-disciplinary academic discipline that examines the concept of disability across social, cultural, historical, and political contexts. Unlike traditional perspectives that view disability primarily through a medical or healthcare lens, disability studies focuses on disability as a social construct, exploring how societal attitudes, policies, and practices shape the experiences of people with disabilities. This field encompasses various disciplines including sociology, psychology, education, law, and more, aiming to understand and challenge the marginalization of disabled people. Disability studies aim to broaden our understanding of disability by moving away from a medicalized view. Instead, it looks at how historical, social, and political conditions contribute to the experience of disability. The scope is wide-ranging, from how disability impacts individuals and families to its role in shaping communities and societies. This broader lens allows for a more inclusive perspective, advocating for systemic changes to foster a more equitable society. This is why key themes in disability studies include the history of disability and how perception of disability have evolved over time, disability rights and activism, representation of disability in media, literature, and arts, the impact of technology and innovation on accessibility and independence, inclusive education and employment practices, the role of families, communities, and support networks in the lives of disabled people. Disability studies began as a grassroots movement in the late 20th century. It expanded as an academic field in response to the social model of disability and civil rights movements, and it evolved to include historical perspectives on the treatment, perceptions, and rights of individuals with disabilities. Historically, disability was viewed through the medical model, which sees disabilities as an individual deficiency or problem, focusing on diagnosis, treatment, and cure. The shift towards the social model of disability marked a pivotal change in understanding disability. This model argues that disability is not caused by the individual's condition, but by societal barriers, including physical obstacles, lack of accessibility, and discriminatory attitudes. The social model has been instrumental in the disability rights movement, advocating for changes in society to accommodate diversity in human ability. This transition from the medical to the social model underscores the evolution of thought in disability studies, advocating for a society that recognizes the values and potential of all its members regardless of their ability. So, three main concepts drive the field of disability studies. Social model. This challenges the notion that disability is an individual problem and emphasizes the need to remove societal barriers. Critique of the medical model. This model is criticized for being inherently oppressive by focusing solely on treatment and cure. Identity and culture. Disability influences not just an individual's life, but also cultural identities and communities worldwide. But let's explore together some of the major trends in disability studies. Disability cannot be examined in isolation from other aspects of identity, such as gender, race, and socioeconomic status. Intersectionality within disability studies highlights the overlapping forms of discrimination faced by people with disability and how these factors interact to influence their experiences. This is crucial for understanding the diversity within the disabled community and for designing inclusive policies and practices. The disability rights movement has been instrumental in pushing for legislative changes like the American with Disability Act (ADA) and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Despite progress, challenges remain in areas like media representation, workplace inclusivity, and reintegration of assistive technology. Media portrayals of disability often reinforce stereotypes, while employment practices still lag in providing equal opportunities and accommodations for disabled people. Technology, while offering new avenues for inclusion, also presents its own set of challenges regarding accessibility and ethical concerns. Examples of successful initiatives for inclusion highlight the potential for positive change. For instance, the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, GAAD, promotes discussion around digital inclusion, while the Invictus Games, promoted by Prince Harry, showcase the resilience of disabled individuals in the world of adaptive sports. Personal stories, such as that of Haben Girma, the first deaf-blind person to graduate from Harvard Law School, and Stevie Wonder, the famous musician and United Nations messenger of peace. So these stories serve as a powerful reminders of the capabilities and contribution of disabled individuals. To summarize, disability studies offer a vital framework for understanding disability as a social construct rather than a medical issue. The transition from the medical to the social model has been crucial in shifting societal attitudes and advocating for more inclusive environments. However, significant work remains in areas like employment, education, and representation. Looking ahead, continued progress in disability studies will depend on the global recognition of disability rights and interdisciplinary research efforts. New approaches are needed to tackle emerging challenges and to develop policies that better support the rights of disabled individuals. Ongoing activism remains crucial for maintaining momentum and pushing for further societal change. Furthermore, we have to take into account that disability studies is not a static field. It's a dynamic field that evolves as society changes. Continued research is vital for understanding the nuanced experiences of disabled individuals and for driving innovation in accessibility. Policy development must be informed by this research, ensuring that legislation supports the rights and inclusion of people with disabilities. Activism can play a critical role in this process, pushing for societal change and holistic vision of institutions as accountable. So now a call to action. As we move forward, it's important for individuals and communities to take proactive steps. first of all, educate yourself about disability rights and inclusive practices. Learn about disability rights and inclusive practices. Share this knowledge within your community and workplace. Secondly, advocate for accessibility in all areas of society, from digital spaces to public infrastructure. Third, support organizations led by disabled individuals to ensure that their voices remain at the forefront of advocacy efforts. Thank you for listening, and here are some references if you want to know more about disability studies.